all the time, aren't I? I've got myself together. Do I know where I'm going? No. And I'm not real sure I'm digging this dress. Do you want to see the dress? It's just a nice little empire waist. I am going to leave my house one way or the other this morning. I'm still drinking coffee. I am on day, 40 of a massive headache. And I swear, flattering angles, trying to find angles that work. And I don't really like this angle. Let's tilt that down there. I'm Kitryn Marie. I'm an artist, writer, speaker, life and a business coach. Reside in St. Louis, Missouri. Teach a variety of art and communication classes. I'm going to try to get comfortable here because I'm not comfortable this morning at all. I want to talk about the art of business. And I want to talk about, if you have a business, are you allowing your customers to dictate how you are to run your business? I lend my hand in the food and beverage industry, have been doing that for 32 years. And this morning, as I am going over the way that the restaurant is structuring business and how so much business has changed and how nobody wants to listen to anything that I have to say because I'm not in charge, and I really don't want to be in charge. But as I have been looking at my personal income and I see the decline and how the establishment is making us share tips, it does more damage to your business than you realize when you are a tipped out industry. That income is based on individuality, performance, experience, and how well you are working that table. And when you have dynamics that do not have that same personality, that same zhuzh, when you are implementing what it is you were trying to do in your job, you are doing a disservice to the industry as a whole. And I'm looking at, income, and it is down. My average tips, typically, when there is a good day, a good business, I get tipped out about 26%. Since we are having to share tips, that tip average has gone down to about 19%. And I was trying to figure out a way to show a side-by-side. Last year at this same time, we get paid every other week. Last year at this time, not sharing tips, give or take an extra shift or two, my check was for $1,100, $1,200. That was my income a year ago, same time. This time around, with having to share tips, the industry changing, the restaurant being restructured, and they're just honestly throwing balls in the air trying to see what works. My check this last time was barely for $700, $759 to be exact. That is a huge difference. So, the art of doing business, who are you allowing to dictate how business is run, and how are you allowing the service to be changed, affecting your employers? I'm gonna give a couple little examples because I like to do that very much so. Because I am older, because there are times I do need a little extra, energy. My counterpart that I work with, she helps tremendously. I say that all the time. This is nothing against her. We have two different personalities, two different styles of doing things, and where I choose to work smarter because of her young age and because she is so driven by money, where I am not driven by money. I am driven by performance and purpose. Sometimes I get railroaded, and she ends up just doing pretty much everything. Now, Not that I'm not wanting to do my share, because I do more than my share on the average. But when you were looking at your staff and you were looking at the burnout of all of your employees and the ones who have been there for a long time, the ones that are, who know structure and can see how structure has changed, when does management step in? When do you step in and you look at performance of your employees? And when you are seeing already a decline in revenue for whatever reason, due to the economy, due to, people don't go out as much, and you apply it to any way that you want in your business, because I'm going to give another scenario. How do you ask your employees to share their earnings when you know the industry in itself is losing out? And if you want to keep good employees and you're trying to boost morale, you certainly don't have them share their incomes. What was the other thing I think about? And here's another kind of clear example on that. Say you're in a trade. You're in a trade, no matter what your trade is. And you get your hourly. And then in the trade, you make a pretty decent amount of money. I would guess anywhere from $35 to $65 an hour, depending on what part of the trade that you're in. There's always one person, maybe two, maybe three, depending on how big that crew is, that is always going to work a little harder, a little smarter, and oftentimes they are compensated through the client that they are working. Now, if you have a crew of 10 and you have two really, really strong workers and they are being tipped out, they are being given a gift of some sort because their customer is very appreciative of their work, and your higher up, who knows how well you work, is now saying, well, that gift, that extra that you were compensated, you need to share with everybody else. How's that going to make you feel? After it's done over and over and over repeatedly, you are going to take a seat back and you are going to realize you're not going to work as hard. You're not going to want to do anything above and over what is just expected in your industry, provided you're making code, you are doing the job according to specs, you are doing your position based on your skilled trade, knowing the overall performance of the job that you were doing is going to reflect back on you. So therefore, if you're doing the best and the greatest in your crew, why is it that you should sacrifice whatever it is that you were earning income-wise? And that's kind of where I'm at right now. Here's the other thing too. Again, it goes back to because I am older. And I think about this, and last night when her and I were speaking on different things, I said we have got to go back to our sections. You can't take over like you've been doing. One, it's creating burnout. Two, you kind of feel like because I'm older, you need to do a little bit more. Honey, let me tell you, I can run circles still around a lot of people. I said, I'm losing out on money the way that we are doing this, and we can't do this like anymore, And I'm showing her side by sides, and she's like, wow. And I'm like, exactly. So here's another analogy. You're working with somebody and you're trying to help them. You want to see them succeed, and in the long run, you are thinking you're doing that person a favor by doing everything. The only other analogy that I can kind of come up with is your parent. Your parent is aging. And I've been through this with my grandma on a similar level. Your parent is aging. You're already running your parent back and forth wherever because it's just easier and it's quicker for you to do it. Your parent is aging a little bit, but you need to take their keys away from them. And you're like starting to suggest because you're so used to doing everything for everybody and taking charge and being the one making all the appointments and this, that, and the other. And the parent gets wind of the fact that you're trying to take the keys away from them. You get where I'm going with this? When I am working my job, I know my lane, I know what I need to do, and I know how to do it, and I do it really well. Based on how I do things in the efficient way that I do things, my tip average has always been about 26%. Like I said, now that we are sharing different personalities on the floor, the tip average is about 19%. And it is graciously showing up in income and how we are selling on the floor. So the analogy in that is, don't take keys away from somebody who still has it all, who can still manage effectively because you were trying to control the whole situation. So for the last 3-4 days, my head has hurt so much trying to convey a message to an entity where they are only looking at dollar signs from their end in order for them to make their income, where they're not expected to share any of their salary, but yet the ones that are actually on the floor are asked, hey, in order to make this fair, because there is no business. But how is that fair? How is that fair? And 32 years in the restaurant industry, I have always said the house always wins. They care about who shows up, and they care about how performance is because they look at revenue on a daily basis. But after a while, if the people on the floor are realizing that they are losing money because of the people that they are working with, then somewhere along the line that revenue is going to decline because they no longer are going to push sales of any kind. And you can think of that in any industry that you're in. The other thing too, I don't know how I ended up with such a business head. I have never taken a business class in my entire life. But I see things differently through logistics, economics, through numbers. When I was a selling artist, any of my materials that I would buy in order to do an art project that I knew I was going to turn around and sell, I would mark up my materials times 3. Oftentimes as an artist, you don't really count the hours that you were putting in. It is just one labor cost. Excuse me. And then whatever that labor cost is, you add in your materials times 3. And of course, depending on what the project is and how you are needing to promote it and sell it and market it, and if you are mass producing, you need to stop and think about, are you working harder? Are you working smarter? And what is that saying about volume and not individuality, but are you mass producing, or are you just doing this one, which is going to make your cost and the value of it be more? What was the other thing I was thinking of? Oh, when I ran the banquet hall. I love talking about the years that I worked for the banquet hall. I had a staff of 40 underneath me. I ordered all the liquor. I ordered all the food. I hired and brought in all the chefs. We had high-end events. Probably the lesser of the events was about 400 people, and on the higher scale, we're talking a place that could house 800 to 1,200 people. I hobnobbed with politicians. I hobnobbed with every religious figure that you could think of across the board here in St. Louis. The mayor at that time, him and I were on a first name basis, and if I ever had an issue with anything that was going on in the bigger scale of things, it's all I'd have to do is call his office. The first week I was in that position, I was told, get the governor on the phone, get the chief on the phone, get this, that, and the other. The job in itself was a very prestigious job. I was also brought into an office and said, hey, we need you to restructure the way money is being brought in. We need you to restructure the program so we can make money. With your background, knowing what you know, we need to know what your logistics looks like and what the projection is going to be for all of these events that we have coming up. Now, because it was a big event center, I took all of those contracts that we had. And when you are doing business through a contract, if it is to better the establishment, you can change a contract after somebody is signed on the dotted line. And you can go look that up in any law book. So any of those contracts that we had, there had to be a deposit. If somebody booked something, depending on how much, food and beverage was per person, it was broken down into 4 payments. And the first deposit was that first 15%. There was an overage. If you knew you were going to have, we'll just say 400 people, we always accounted for 5% over, knowing 3% probably was not going to show up, but that 2% needed to be absorbed in that dollar amount at the end. That was the revenue per that event. My bartenders at that time made $12 an hour. We're talking 2007 to 2009. My bartenders made $12 an hour, plus they made tips. Usually I had 4 bartenders on a floor. My servers, my banquet servers, I paid them $10 an hour. They were allowed to collect whatever tips if they needed to. I would prefer that they did not run liquor back and forth. It was, one big event, and that was the whole thing about when you're in a big banquet like that. People get up and they mix and they mingle. I had 4 porters. I would have a main chef, and I know I paid him extremely, extremely well, and he had a sous chef. All of the servers were required, when it was time to plate up the food, to be in a big assembly line. That's how we got the food out on time. They were required to carry a tray as best as they could, having 8 to 10, I'm trying to think because it's been a while, 8 to 10 seats per table, knowing there were 800 people. They worked efficiently. They were happy with their hourly. They were happy with the personal tips that they were making on their own, and nobody ever complained. I had one good banquet captain that I depended on. And my hours, I worked Monday through Friday. I worked 10 to 4 on Tuesday, or on Friday rather. Sometimes I would leave at 2. In the event that we would have on Saturday night, I never had to be there on a Friday night because usually the person that owned the banquet hall, he was always there unless he couldn't be there, and then I just stayed over. But on Saturday night, I would show up. I would make sure everything was good. We did a lot of weddings mostly, and then the political functions and the religious functions and so on and so forth. But once the bride and groom got through those doors, when the DJ was introducing them, and I knew what was going on in the kitchen, I just let my banquet person handle it, banquet captain handle it. I can't talk. And the evening went smooth. There was never any issue. And as I am looking, because I lend my hand in the banquet industry now, where it has changed, there are too many chiefs and not enough Indians. We have people who are entitled. We have these customers that are constantly thinking that their servers and their bartenders need to fall over them, when they need to understand they are there for a good time, they are there for a wonderful experience, and if they are not happy, then they need to look within to what their expectation is. Each establishment each employer has a model. And if you are not keeping up with what that model is and what you are trying to offer to your customers, then you've lost the ball in the art of business. And I'm sitting back over the last couple days, and I do business coaching for creative minded women who want to start their own side hustles, who want to lean out of that 9 to 5 when they know that they have reached that ceiling cap and they can't go any higher. You have to stop and think. If you were performing at your highest level and you know you were doing the best you can, why would you allow somebody to tell you you can't make that kind of money all on your own? And we do talk about that in my business coaching class. But this morning I'm just sitting back with my head just pounding and pounding, and I'm thinking, customers don't get to rule how a business is run. And if you have high performers, they should not have to share their income with anybody who cannot keep up. And although I do say I am older and I am slowing down a little bit, when I know for a fact, at one point my income based at 26% on my own and now is taken back to a 19% tip, it's a much bigger problem, and it needs to be addressed. So I'm going to ask you, in your business, with your employees, with who you are working at, with and at, who are your strong performers? Who are the people that you are asking to settle for less because you've lost control over your structure? Another thing too, you want to replace certain people in your environment. Look at it like this. You have a poisonous fish tank. The water is poison. If you do not change that water and you do not take it out ounce by ounce, anybody that you replace in that poisoned water will go back to the same bad structure that is originally there in that tank. So in order to remove, you need to take everything down to nothing, shut the industry down, rethink the process, and start over again, knowing you've got to build solid. Your customers cannot rule your business, and you cannot take your top performers and ask them to settle for less. But I am Kitryn Marie, an artist, writer, speaker, life, and a business coach. I don't know if I'm digging this dress today. I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I teach a variety of art and communication classes based in life coaching. I business coach. I am a published author, When He Had Her, available on Amazon. If you are interested in taking any of my classes, reach out, kitrynmarie@gmail.com. After this is all over, by all means, leave a comment. I've got comments turned off now, but I am leaving my house today. Just a lot of business logic in my mind, trying to figure out my next strategic move. But y'all take care, and I will see you real soon. Take care.